Friend of mine, friend of yours out there in Canada, former Toronto Blizzard and a star with Team Canada, Paul Peschisolido. Paul, welcome again, my friend.
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm very good, Paul. We really appreciate you staying up in the wee hours of the morning, and we thank you so much. But before we start, I've got to say hello from John Catliff, Alex Bunbury, and Paul Ciccarelli. All joined us. They wanted me to make sure that I said my hellos to you.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, how are they all? They all okay?
All outstanding, and they're all excited possibly for Canada to get its own league once again to kick off in 2018, and that's why I wanted to have you on. You played with the old Toronto Blizzard, born and raised in Scarborough, Ontario. A lot of people are getting really here quite fed up and tired of the Americans taking a lot of the positions of Canadian players, and a lot of people want our own Canadian league. Where do you stand on that, Paul?
Well, I think it's essential to the development of football and our soccer in Canada. You know, what we ultimately want is we want a Canadian national team that is competitive, that competes at a world level. And until we get players across the country playing in a competitive league, a place for them to, ply their trade with, the top quality players, then we'll never have a competitive national team. So I think it's essential.
Paul, back in the day in the Canadian Soccer League, Canadian players had spots on those teams. There was only 3 imports allowed. Canadian coaches were working, Canadian trainers, Canadian people in administration roles like general managers, you name it. MLS really has shown a real disrespect for the Canadian player, and it's real hard for them to crack that lineup. That's why a lot of people have the appetite, once again, to give jobs to Canadian players, coaches, and GMs. How important was it back in that time when you played with the Blizzard that those players went on to have success with Team Canada, the Gold Cup, on and on?
It was huge. Well, I credit that to my development. I was very fortunate at the age of 16 to be drafted by Toronto Blizzard. I was playing in a men's league, albeit the support across the country wasn't huge, but it gave me a platform to play against the best other Canadian kids. We had some great coaches, the likes of your Tony Taylors and Bobby Leonarduzzi's, managers of all these clubs that helped bring us on. And without that, there was no way I would ever have made the opportunity to move abroad. You would have literally straight from school gone to your high school, gone to university, perhaps taken a scholarship and pursued other avenues. But because of the CSL, I was able to play at the highest level in Canada, and it groomed me to be prepared for English football. So I credit it immensely.
And Paul, let's not forget that a lot of people that didn't get to watch those games back in the day, the quality was good. The quality was solid. There was guys that went on overseas like yourself to play, Alex Bunbury, on and on. That development that you talked about helped other guys go into the coaching profession like Nick Dasovich and others as well.
Absolutely. And, we've got players such as Nick that have had a huge experience playing in Canada, have gone abroad, experience playing in Scotland, as in Nick's case. And, we want these people to be back in the game. We want them to be showing our young Canadians what it's all about and giving them the experience they had to develop them and turn them into pros. Because ultimately our aim is to become a better nation at the World Cup level. It's essential. Every other country has got their own league, and because of it, have improved. We're the only country that's either standing still or going backwards, and it's frustrating for me because I want to see Canada competing with the best.
And I don't think a lot of people can recall, but there was a time when Team Canada easily took care of USA and, battled the Mexicans, not with a lot of wins, but battled them. And things turned around ever since the US of A had that World Cup in '94, Paul. They threw a lot of money in and they created their own league. It was mandated by FIFA that they had a pro league, and the rest is history where they're at today. And that's why I believe Canada needs its own league.
Oh, yeah. I think we've got to follow the way the Americans did it. And I know it doesn't help Canadians the way they've done their league, but what it has done is created a team, a national team that is constantly making World Cups and is competing at the national, at the national level, week in, week out. And you got to credit them for that, But we've got to take a leaf from their book, and we've got to do the same for ourselves, and not rely on them, and do our own thing.
Paul, playing for the Toronto Blizzard as you did, and I worked with North York and on, there was something that I noticed in the travels with North York is those little kids in the stands wearing the Toronto Blizzard jerseys, North York, Vancouver 86ers, on. And you saw the twinkle in their eye because they were dreaming one day from their youth club that they could possibly play for one of those Canadian Soccer League clubs. And I think this is important. You come from a country that understands this, lives it and breathes it in England, where you watch these youngsters wearing these jerseys of Man U, Man City, on, Liverpool, Birmingham, and they have that twinkle in their eye to play one day for that club. Talk about how important that is as well.
Well, yeah, as a youngster, you want to aspire to play for your local club. That's how it's done here in England, and I'm sure that's what we need to look at in Canada. Our recreational soccer in Canada is fantastic. I don't know if it still is because it's been a while since I've been back, but surely when I was playing, that your club, the Scarborough Blues, the Guildwood, the Wexfords, they dominated certainly in Ontario. And anytime we went abroad and played teams from Italy and England, we would give them a run for their money. What we want is these kids to continue to play, but aspire to play for teams in Canada. And the positive thing now is the game as a spectator sport has grown in Canada. And we need to capitalize on that. People will go and watch games. Toronto FC are getting sell-ins week in, week out. Why not create a league where has the same buzz?
I couldn't agree more with you, Paul. And it is so important, I believe, to create a league because now we're starting to see in other countries all over the world that the doors are being closed for players from Canada, the U.S., on, to go and play in Italy, in England, Spain, on. I mean, we see it within Italy where Milan is trying to build for the first time in a long time an all-Italian team. Juventus has a number of Italian players. In England, unfortunately, you know this better than I, there's so many foreigners on each and every team. Portugal is the opposite. They take care of their own before they allow others in. And I think this is another key as well, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. It's essential that when you do have a national league, that what it is doing is it's giving an opportunity for your own people from your own country, an opportunity to platform and play at the highest level within their own country, because if they're not getting a competitive game week in, week out, then it'll be detrimental to your national team. And that's what we're finding here in England, that everybody's complaining about, obviously, the grassroots, and they're trying to look at grassroots once again and see where it's going wrong. But it's a tough one, because I know Italy's very similar. There's two or three of the top teams now that have maybe one or two Italians, where I think they might be looking to go back to the old stranieri, the three foreigner rule, because the national team is going to struggle if they don't have their players playing in the best teams in the best league.
And for me, the best league right now is in England. And you talked about the national team, and they struggle. Yes, they're going off to Euro. They've been in the World Cups, but they haven't won a World Cup in how long? They haven't won a Euro in how long? And I think it comes back to giving that space to a young English player ahead of a foreigner. And you know this better than I. I can sense that the people in England are getting tired of it, instead of, giving certain players the opportunity as they come up through the system.
Yeah, people are frustrated. They want to see these young kids getting games. But what you're finding now is there's more and more foreign investment and into the Premier League. And when you've got that many foreign owners, they want the best team. And if it means having to go out and buy players from other countries, then they'll do that. So it makes it even more difficult for young kids coming through here in England, because everybody wants the ready-made team, as opposed to waiting 4 or 5 years to develop and have young kids come through. But hopefully that'll change. I think the Premier League's looking at it. Certainly the FA is looking at it, because, like I said, the English team, or rather the supporters, are very displeased at how poorly the English team are doing,
Paul,
competing at the world level. So, they're going to look at it and perhaps put something into place that corrects that.
and I think that happens. Paul, just before we let you go, what's in store for yourself in 2016? Are you looking to get back in the managerial role, possibly here in North America? Are you looking abroad? Where are you looking? Are you just taking it easy right now with the family?
I'm taking it easy, but I'm getting involved in other aspects of the game. There's a few little ventures that I'm looking at the minute. I've been speaking with Craig Forrest and Jimmy Brennan, even Nick Dazovich. We were looking at perhaps helping young kids come to England and showcase their talent, because if they're not, if they're finding it difficult, or they're finding it difficult to get into the MLS, and they want to come over here and make a profession of it. So if we can help these young kids over here with trials and what have you, then we'd look to do that. But no, I'm involved in other aspects of the game here, even the agency side of things that I've kind of ventured into. So management in the minute is not for me, but who knows? Who knows in 12 months' time? Things change in this country very quickly.
And that's great to hear that you've teamed up with Jimmy Brennan. He is the technical director of Aurora Youth Soccer Club here. We know him quite well. And that's great, Paul, that you've decided to try and, bridge a gap there that might be missing here still in Canada, helping out some youth that might want to have some trials there.
No, absolutely. There's, the Premier League is the most exciting league in the world, in my opinion, at the minute. And if we can get some Canadian kids over here showcasing their stuff and getting them playing at the highest level, then that could only be good for the individual kids. And again, it would benefit Canadian soccer kids. You'll have Canadian national team players playing in one of the best leagues in the world, which could only help our national team. So, yeah, it's hopefully exciting times.
Outstanding, Paul. We really appreciate you making time in the wee hours of the morning. You're a class act, a Hall of Famer. A lot of people enjoyed the time you played with the Toronto Blizzard, but more importantly, when you played for Canada. And those are memories that'll be never taken away from me and many. So we really appreciate you making time once again. And the best to you and your family, my friend.
Pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
Paul Peschisolido, what a class act, what a true gentleman, and a friend of mine, a friend of yours. Love having him on. And this is great news. If he's teamed up with Jimmy Brennan and other guys trying to help out, this is fantastic.